Hi, it's Gary, and in this second part of my discussion with guitarist, composer, and educator Ben Verdery, Ben starts by discussing if and why guitars are changing over time, and he shares how he evaluates guitars to determine whether they'll work for him. Then, drawing upon his extensive experience as a performer and educator, having recently retired from the Yale School of Music after 40 years, Ben shares some incredible advice for us as builders. And in his characteristically curious fashion, then Ben turns the tables on me and asks me some questions. So here's Ben in part 2. So do you think on average, the average sound of guitar is moving? Do you see do you hear different sounds in just the guitars that your students are playing? Is it changing over time, do you think?
I would have to say yes. I would have to say that the level of guitar maker, like the level of playing, and the reason is I think they're more informed. Like people like you've helped so many. I can't imagine when the series is in its 10th year, it will improve everybody. There's just better information. I feel the guitar makers are more informed, and they are also better listeners. And they're listening to their guitars, they're listening to the players. And they've had this lifetime of listening to great players and why they play their guitars and are able to create instruments with a reservoir of really good soulful information, not just technical but soulful, like they're feeling it, you know. And so I feel that I said this 10 years ago, but now I said even more, it's the best time to be a classical guitar maker and player, because I just got a fantastic guitar from a very young guitar maker. Not very young, like he's 10 years old, but young to me, and, from Vietnam. The guy lives in the hills of his name is Vu. He lives in the hills of Vietnam, man. And he's able to build a really good guitar.
He has so much knowledge.
Yeah. It's like so. Yeah, right.
So advanced.
So this guy comes up to me in Vietnam just recently, like in the summer, and it's like, whoa, So that's exciting. It's really exciting, and yet, there's still the frontier. I still think every guitar maker is going louder. I do feel that. Not every guitar. Like another guitar maker who's been very important to me is Otto Wolfing.
Yeah.
Because he built my baritone, and I love his normal guitars, but I freaked out over the baritone he made me. And Otto, I think, is an example. If you interviewed him, he really likes what he makes, and he's not about making loud. Right. So he would disagree. He said, "Look, I'm speaking for the guy." Otto, I hope you agree. He's really, makes a very refined, beautiful guitar, but he says, "This is what I make. I'm not seeking to make." When Greg Smallman came in, then there was the Muellers, and then and obviously Dahmen, this extraordinary explosion of loud Wagner. Funny, so many German guitar makers. So, but I'm never gonna not believe that. There's another guy in Holland too. I can't think of his name. I really like his guitars. In Amsterdam. Anyway, I think there's still a lot of guitar makers who are saying, how can we get more? But it's pretty impressive where it is. What do you think?
I think it's a misconception that the majority of guitar builders are trying to build louder and louder guitars.
You do.
Just the builders that I talk to, my colleagues.
Right.
I don't think everybody would.
So I'm wrong about that.
Certainly,
you don't think some part of them goes.
Well, of course, we all want more volume but not
to trade for beauty.
Right.
No.
So,
I would never.
Course,
I would never. I'm sorry if I insinuated that. You want beauty first, but if you could have both.
I think it's very much on the same page as the players.
Yeah.
You want more of everything. We wanted
Right.
We want it easier. We
Right,
want
exactly,
more. Of course,
exactly,
we want
yeah.
to expand.
Yeah, but
whatever
we've
we
all
can
played
play.
guitars that screamed that were very uninspired, because I was very lucky. Look, I never had a student that had a dominant, but I have had students that had Wagner's. And so I was very lucky as to, over the last, I guess, 20 years, to see so many different guitars and to see how my students reacted to them, what they saw and heard. And also what they saw and heard in my guitars, your guitars, because, which was really, really educational.
What about scale length? Do you think?
No, I
changing
just
on
think you taught me everything about that. You were the one to say, look, demystify that thing about 65, stay alive. That 64 is great, and that changed me. I mean, I find a real difference. Oh my God.
Any change in sound?
None. Not that I could perceive. None.
Yeah.
I mean, no.
Because a lot of people will say, well, the difference between 650 millimeters versus 640 is only 10 millimeters, and half of that 10 millimeters is distributed over the fingerboard, but you can feel it. Quite a difference. What do you feel?
For my hands?
Yes.
Quite, as you just said, quite a difference. It's not, it creeps up on you, right? You have to try things, stretches. You find, oh my God, that stretch, because I do tend to finger, even in the music I write, I have certain stretches that are unfriendly.
Wow.
And that is, they're really doable. Especially things like, D on the sixth string and an F sharp in the first, or they're doable. So I do notice it. I don't think, it does creep up on you, but yeah, it's noticeable. I mean, look, it's just my opinion. I mean, I really that's just I can only say what I experienced,
Yeah,
But-
it's pretty interesting because in the last 5 years, I've built maybe a majority of less than 650 millimeter guitars. It's becoming a
It's
thing.
becoming a thing. Most people that I meet now, yes, that's what I found. It's funny, I don't know what VU is. I think it's, I don't know.
I don't remember.
It's very
I
comfortable.
haven't measured this
Yeah.
one, but
It's very comfortable, yeah.
and I think with maybe more modern tops that are more efficient, the string length doesn't really count for too much in terms of the power.
Hallelujah. And another reason for people to play period instruments, they have to know most Europeans were 5'10" or something, or sort of built for that height. But nonetheless, they should know, or play a Stauffer or play a Lacotte, and know what it feels like.
Yeah.
And especially if they're playing any of that music.
Yeah. How do you know when a guitar works for you or isn't going to work for you? When you start trying these guitars.
Oh, that's great. I would love to hear my friends. I think you know immediately. And you got to ask other people. That's a little bit brazen. Oh, you know immediately. What do you mean? But no, you sort of, like Vu, the Vietnamese. And that was like, people were talking. That was a little bit GFA-ish, into sort of the calamity of the room with so much noise. But I went, oh. So there's something about the feel, the sound, that, I mean, I must say, I guess another question you're probably going to ask is, what is the first thing you were attracted to? And it's the touch. Because we're about touch, and I'm about, I've been talking all about sound. But trust me, if your guitar has a high action and you can tell me, oh, well, I can learn, I've heard so much, or, the action's too high. If it doesn't feel good, forget it. I already find that I don't even play the guitar that well, and it's already enough for me to play well. And now you want me to have this action? No, we're look, you have to go back. That doesn't mean you're a terrible guitar player. That part of it, you have not taken seriously enough. The playability is huge. Paco Peña used to say, his expression was, it's not very, I'm doing terrible imitation. It's not very friendly So I use that. It's not friendly. And so the touch, and so when I picked up Vu's guitar, immediately it felt good. It was like, oh, damn. And then the sound, and then, you know.
So this
But he was there, but I did.
Oh, yeah, right.
And he's a very likable guy. You, on the
That
other
helps.
hand, oh my God. Such
Pain,
a difficult
pain.
person.
Such a
Oh my
pain.
God.
That's why
I wouldn't say not likable, but wow, difficult.
Yeah, that's why I get thrown out of this apartment after 45
4 hours.
minutes.
4 hours. So yeah, no. So does that answer it?
Yeah. So what's happening in this other? Let's say if you get this guitar alone for a week, is it a process of you're
Yes.
trying different things and seeing if
Then
there are
you're
any
right.
deal
That,
breakers?
all right, that's a great, yeah, definitely. I can only obviously speak about my experience. The first thing is this love of touch, the general sound. Then you get it alone. Like Vu, I said, okay, I got to take this home. Then I go through my little list of Bach, cello suite number 6, you know.
I
Villalobos.
knew that's your go-to.
Yeah, because the first string, you know, and the third string, a little bit of counterpoint, the allegro, the prelude to the allegro, to hear some counterpoint, whatever's in my fingers. Villalobos 7, the middle section, definitely, because I'm always interested in you know, the high. I always play the F. I always play that F. How much can it sustain? It's a brutal note. I might go through literally like you do. I might go through every string, but definitely, and then I'll just play something just bombastic. How loud can I play? Is it gonna, as I said, feedback? Is it gonna buzz like crazy? How much can it stand of me pounding? So that's the very important stage. Then, it's very similar to writing a piece of music in some ways, or to learning a piece. So you have this relationship, you're drawn to it, you're attracted to sound, you like to sing, and it feels good, and you played your thing. Then, other people's opinions of how you sound. I will just say, it is not a bad, I once had, should I go negative or I'll start positive? It is a good thing when people go like, oh man, that guitar, what is that guitar? That's a good thing. Or you're playing and you're teaching in a master class. I remember my ego being so, you know, happy, my pathetic little ego when I play master classes in the small one, like, you know, that's how insecure I was. And still am. And so that's a great thing. Like, how does the audience react to you playing this instrument? That's not nothing. I once had a guy come up to me and said, you got to get rid of that guitar. You sound terrible on that guitar. It's dead. I mean, it was harsh, but I still remember it, and it did make me go home and say, And my friend, our friend, Martha Masters, came and taught at my Hawaii class of the day in Maui. And we had this great question. We have this great question answer period at the end. And we asked her about competitions because she's judged many competitions. So she did start talking about guitars, and she did make this great point about when someone comes out with a guitar with a lot of presence and it sounds louder than the person before, the judges notice it, you know? So that's just maybe, it's just sort of an addendum to the whole thing about audiences. What's the reaction? You know, if my wife doesn't like the sound of a guitar, it's not good.
I've heard that from many guitarists.
It's not, the wife is huge. My wife's huge because she's an incredible musician. She has a great ear, and she makes a beautiful sound. I mean, I think one of the most beautiful sound of the flute. And she has very particular tastes about the flute she plays. So, you know, I know a lot about her type of flutes with her, which are older, older flutes, not the latest style, and also she has a baritone. She has an alto flute and a bass flute too, and a piccolo. Been hearing a lot of piccolo because we just finished Nutcracker. So I do think someone's. That said, if you love a guitar, and the main thing I always say to my students is, does the guitar inspire you? You have to be inspired. The guitar should make you want to play Bach and want to play whatever your repertoire is. That's really important. And you shouldn't be, and I think that should happen pretty fast. I mean, it did with me. It's like, you know, you bring me a new guitar, I'm like, oh man, I mean, with this new top, it's like, I really, you can't wait to get to it. I do want to say one thing. when I do get a guitar, I do try to let it talk to me. I don't know how to articulate this, but not to impose. I think we pick up a guitar and the player picks up the guitar and they come with a, generally, as we've discussed, a certain passages, but I try to let the guitar tell me and not just say, oh, I want this, or I want it to be dark, or I want it to be loud. But what is the guitar going to tell me? And that's something it took me a long time to figure out. Even with Vu, like, what is this guitar doing? Like, try to get to know it, as opposed to what I just said, imposing your set of, parameters, rules, whatever you want to say.
Is it okay for some guitars not to be able to do everything?
It is okay, because there's no perfect guitar. I mean, it is okay, and that's a great question. Yeah, and is it? But and then when I sort of see what the guitar is about, meaning just musically, sonically, the feel, then I can start to fool around with what I coax more things out of it. But I think you have to be open as a maker, as a player, to kind of, what are you hearing? And not just, it's got to be this,
Yeah. You don't generally steer your students towards certain guitars, so how do you advise them? And what is the purpose of just letting them go and discover a guitar that might fit them, even though it might take a long time?
Don't forget, I teach at graduate school.
Yes.
So it's not an undergrad, so I'm not, they've generally had a guitar, some of them two, generally one. And it does happen that in actually right now, where a guitar, it feels like the student has outgrown it, or it's not speaking for them in a manner that I think it could. So that's the first thing. Many of them have their guitar, they're very happy. I definitely interrogate them. I definitely say, like, are you happy with this guitar? And that's prior to me having any judgment. Well, not exactly, but I listen to them. I remember, and some of my students are very stubborn. So this one student that I adore was playing and having a difficult time on a certain guitar that's very prestigious. And I said, she had very small hands. There, I shouldn't have said they, whatever. She had very small hands. And I said, try it on my guitar, meaning yours. She played the passage flawlessly. I said, oh, then you'd rather work harder. And we had a great, in total love. She says, I'm not changing my guitar. I said, okay, but I think it's up to me as a teacher to at least say, look, you are working crazy hard, girlfriend. And it's up to her to say, that's fine. That's what I want to do. Okay, good. So I try to interrogate are you happy with the guitar? I also, of course, have a sense. Some students just don't have the physical relationship with the instrument that looks comfortable to me, just as a objective, even audience member. If I just kind of say, I'm an audience, I'm looking at them, you can tell, do they have a relationship with the instrument that's, for lack of a better word, organic, that's natural.
Interesting. You should say that, because when I go to concerts, this is the first thing that I'm looking for.
Just know how they hold it.
Yeah.
Right? Just hold it. Yeah, exactly. So the other thing that's so helpful, that's so beautiful about a guitar department is they, over time, are hearing their peers' guitars. And so they're becoming educated. And generally, they're going to play those guitars. The students, back to your question, they play their peers' guitars, and I always loan them my guitar for a night or 2 nights or longer. I try to let them play the small one, whatever it is, so that they can play it, get and alone, like I said,
Yeah.
So I think you're just trying to educate and just to say to them, look, I'm not here to sell you a guitar. You have to find a guitar. The other thing that's so exciting is when they do find, generally, I've only had one case where a student bought a guitar that I really wished he hadn't. But I didn't say anything. I was like, oh, great. I was very enthusiastic about it. Because, it's a new guitar. What are you going to say? It's like, oh man, this, you just paid for it. You can say, oh, this is terrible. I can't do that. I don't know anybody, none of my friends.
So were you right?
I was right. Yeah, he sold it in 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's not, that person had to learn that. I mean, that's part of the journey. It's actually very helpful. I mean, I always say there's no such thing as failure. That's another thing for guitar makers. You're not going to fail. You made a guitar. It's not, you'll make a better one or not. So I would say, I think generally the path, the journey that they have, like if they go to, say, Steve Connors, who lives pretty close by to Yale, and on Cape Cod, that's great. They get to go to a studio or your studio and meet them, and that's like worth, and it becomes their personal journey, which I think is great. Or they get to go to a guitar with, Beverly Mayer or somebody and play 10 different makers. That's also incredibly valuable. You want them just to make a checklist. John Gilbert used to say that. Make a check. See everything, what I liked about this guitar, what I didn't like about it, etc. And generally they should go with a friend, I think. As much as I'm always saying play alone, but it's good to have a mate there to kind of listen to you and just to have, a different opinion. But yeah, that's so I don't, I try to go back to the same age. You're inspired, and I feel as a teacher that they're generally playing well, that they're not fighting it. So I just try to look for when they're fighting it. That's the main thing. Like, wow. Or I have a student now where I have to say his guitar is just not loud enough. It's an incredible, and that gets into the guitars for different things. We have friends that think this is great for recording. This is more of a chamber music guitar, and he has a guitar that's great. I adore his guitar, but it's when he's playing with chamber music, it's not cutting. And that chamber music thing is a big deal because you have to inspire the other player. And you may be playing like the part brilliantly, but if that violinist is, all the sound is up here, and if that violinist is, and then they go to play with the piano, so volume for the student, for chamber music, for certain situation is important.
Okay.
Unless and I'm a huge fan of amplifying. That's a different discussion. You still got to play. It's got to have even if it's amplified, it's got to have all the great qualities. So anyway, I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, very good answer.
Well, thank you.
That really covers a big world of what not just students, but concert guitarists.
And
amateurs are considering. It's not easy. But
it's really fun. It's really exciting.
Exactly. So that's the one.
And that's one thing I want to say too. When you go to the guitar maker and you're playing a new guitar, please do your nails. I get crazy when my students say, do your nails. And even if you're a guitar maker, you don't want to alienate them. If you're a guitar maker and you're pretty seasoned and a young player comes to you and you could say, did you do your nails? No, but that could be. Yeah, because if you're a guitar maker, you want to feel that they've done, so maybe you should have some sandpaper. Always available.
Guitar builders have lots of sandpaper.
Yes, they do.
Don't worry about that. What do you think you could tell some developing builders or even experienced builders as a player, somebody who works with a guitar, that could help them? What do you think as far as would make your life easier? Could make our guitars better? It's a tough question.
If they could play for me, or maybe play like some of my students play, or many of them.
Because I'll just preface it by saying you have advanced my building just by hanging out here, talking to you.
Thank you.
The small nuggets.
Oh my God! Likewise. I mean, that's the thing we should say to people. I mean, it's been so exciting having the relationship with Gary because you've been. How long have I been playing your guitars now? Because I remember again, it's like Fred. Fred was the one. Fred Gilbert with you. He had your guitars. Oh man, I got
Your first one was 2013.
So that's a while now.
And we've been through maybe 4 guitars.
Yeah, and prior to that, we knew each other, and you were hearing what I was doing. So which accounts for something.
Well, I know your career way back.
Well,
way back.
So, but I wanted to say that how exciting it is for the player, and this is kind of what I did to a degree with Tom, and to a degree with Smallman. I had like 3 Smallmans. Now, my father used to say, did you have 3 Smallmans, or did you have 3 Smallmans? So anyway, no, I remember going to Greg's when I went to Australia, and he had 7 guitars. And for 3 days, I banged, and he would say, come on. And I was losing my mind, because I really just sort of said to him, look, can't you I'm just going to take this one. And then I get up the next morning, and he said, come on, try. It was really it was so great, so wild. So I did with Greg, go through different guitars, and with you, it's just as much of an education for the player as it is for the builder. So if you can develop a relationship with a guitar maker and play several guitars over, if you're able to do that, it's pretty exciting. It's really, especially if you're always growing, you're always looking for something new, and just made me this new top, which I hope you'll talk about in your series.
Sure.
But yeah. But I would say the first thing is to watch your series. That's the first thing. And the biggest advice I think you can do is to, like I was saying before, I think when guitar makers go to festivals and just listen, talk, keep putting your guitar in somebody like you have in your video of the GFA, where you show all these people playing your guitars and how much you got from that. Keep putting them in different hands. Maybe it's cool to have a list of your absolute favorite players that really move you, and say, okay, why do those 3-4 people move me? Obviously they're great musicians and they're saying something artistically that moves me. Okay, but what is it about their sound? I remember, even Vu said that. He had heard somebody in the festival play a great guitar by Connors, and he was very inspired by Steve Connors, this person who was playing. I don't remember. So that might be, listening. I think for young musicians and young players, listen as much as you can. And I don't think live is the best, but don't be shy about listening to YouTube and listening to whatever. And then the other thing is, I said, you're bound to go. I think it's pretty natural and with artists to imitate. I know that I've written a few pieces of music that were imitations, or I would call them models of another, like Capitola is a model of Mysterious Barricades. It's a rondo, it's got suspensions, and then it's got an intro. Sounds like the Allman Brothers. So I think modeling and spending time, modeling a guitar after a guitar you really, really love, you're going to obviously learn something. So that's not a bad approach. But the most, the thing that, it's like a cliche, but it's the same for players. You have to be yourself. You have to trust your instincts and be yourself in terms of do what you think sounds great to you. Because that's what I think is so great about it. You also play, which is, I think, really important. But I also know Smallman, Greg used to just do this. I think this is what he did. All he ever did. This is what he... That's what he'd pound on his guitar. A D minor. I don't even think he hit the ID. Every time. That's what Greg did. And that was what he heard. But you actually play, and is it really necessary for the guitar maker to play? No, great guitar makers should build great guitars that don't play. That said, I think it comforts me to know that you really can play.
But there's a lot of information in that D minor. If you keep playing that the same way on all these different guitars, if you're calibrated, he might be calibrated to...
I'm not saying it's foolish, because God knows he changed the face of guitar making. And let's not forget. I only mentioned him once, but John Williams was, we owe him a huge, I mean, I feel, him a huge debt to, again, forming that relationship that you and I have. Like he went to Australia, boom, guitar after guitar. I saw tons of, John's guitars, John Smallman's.
Yeah.
Right up to now. So, and now his sons are building extraordinary instruments. David Russell was in this very seat saying, or no, that where you are saying.
Yeah, I'm aware that John Williams really, he worked hard to work with Smallman. So that
and John really, unlike me, he actually knows how to get. I'm learning through you, finally at this tender age. But John really knew from the beginning. I think he was so patient with me. He'd say, "Don't you know this?" John actually knows how a guitar is made. It's like unlike me, but I am learning. So how would it? So I would say, yeah, listen, be yourself, and the other thing is like, be willing to make a lot of guitars that you're not gonna put out there. It's like, I think Smallman. I think didn't let guitars go out for 6 months or something. He keeps them there for 6 months. So no, man, I'll tell you a little story, guitar makers. One of my heroes in music was Ingram Marshall, this composer friend of mine who really was one of my favorite favorite composers. And he wrote me, I think, one of the most seminal guitar pieces, Sopa, for digital delay and classical guitar. And so I had this piece, I'm not going to say which piece it was, of mine. I played it at Yale and Ingram was there, and I so wanted, so great, such a gentle person, great concert, great. And, so he didn't say anything. So of course I had to say, well, what do you think of my piece? He says, well, I mean, he was so sweet guy. He's not going to well, it's not one of my favorite Ben pieces. So I was crushed, right? And then he said, you can't always hit a home run.
Yeah.
And I think we have to learn that, is if you're a good guitar maker, you may make a guitar that is not, for some reason, doing what you spent 6 months or whatever it is, or how long it's not going to do it. It doesn't mean you throw it out. It means you figure it out, because you figure out what didn't go right. Just the way we players do. Like,
That is so true. It's still a data point, and a very important one you can learn from.
Yeah, you don't throw it out. You just say, like, okay, what? And get inspired again, and don't be devastated. And also, what did Bob Dylan say? Some of the people like me some of the time. Yeah. Anyway, whatever that great quote is, can't like me all the time. Not everybody's gonna love your guitars, man. Just like deal with it. If you're gonna be a guitar maker as you're gonna be a player, you have to have a skin. Alligator skin. You have to, because not everybody's going to like it, and it's really difficult to make guitars. Not only are you sitting there forever in this room and you're making this thing, and then some guy, I love this. The guitar player goes like, I got to take this. This is the support, by the way, which I fully support. Thank you. This is the standard thing. You give the guy the guitar. Nice. And that's after that can happen. And that's after you spent God knows how many hours, right? Your lifetime. So you got to be ready for that. And if you can hang in there and ask, well, can you say more, or can you, and then, maybe they will. But they may be wrong.
That's what I appreciate.
Player, guitar could be, I want to say two other things before I leave this. They may be wrong. And two, if you're going to grow as a person and as a guitar maker, like you have to be open. You have to hear things and not judge them immediately. Someone says it's really bright, just cool. Just. I've been with guitar makers, I'm sorry to say this, where I will start to criticize and I immediately get, oh, well, that's because of this, or that's this. And then I just say, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, you must be right. And here's your guitar. We're done. We're done. The other thing, there was something I was going to say. Generally, if you're going to hand somebody a guitar, try to make the environment good for you. And that's the only problem with the GFA situation. Yeah. And I noticed that you pulled people to go, see if you can find another room. If somebody's very interested in your guitar, say, hey, do you mind coming to this corner or something where they can really hear it, you know? And let them play and don't say anything. Don't. I have this theory that the guitar maker, so this really nice French guitar maker, I don't remember, is it Iserlohn? And he said, I really would like you to try my guitar. I said, because it was one of these great festivals, we all lived in the same place, right? So I said, absolutely fine. Can I have your guitar for 2 nights or a night? Because I can't have you next to me when I'm playing. Every time the guitar maker is next to me, or the guitar sounds great. It's like voodoo. It's like, you know, and then I take it home and I go like, whoa, 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 which goes, you know, which implies to the player too, if you really are interested in guitar, you have to be alone with it. Not with your teacher, not with your friends. Say, oh yeah, man. No, you have to be alone and just play a variety of repertoire. You have to play Baroque music. You have to play something loud and fast. You have to play something delicate, etc. Alone. But the guitar maker should not, if, you know, I think the guitar maker, he or she should be cool and just try to take your ego out of it and let the person play it. And if they say nothing, I know it's brutal. Or if they say something faint-hearted, don't take it personally, but try to learn. But it's not easy. And my heart goes out to every guitar maker. I mean, it is a hard thing to do, man. And you all want, I'm the same way. I want guitar players that I love to say, oh, great concert, Ben. You know, it's a wacky thing, that wanting approval, but it's a dangerous, very dangerous, very dangerous. I will say, if you work on it, as I have, it gets better with age. It's like, I now don't, you know.
I couldn't agree more, because I pretty much said similar things in episode 3, where I said,
yes,
you can't please even a small percentage of the world for your guitars. But you have been so helpful in your comments, because I often, when I first started working with you, I always wanted to know the critical things, the negative things, and I was really hung up on that. But you said, no, you need to have a balance. I'm going to tell you the things that aren't so good, but also the things
I
that
think
are
he's
really
making
good.
this up. I don't remember any of this.
I remember it very
But you have a much better memory than I. Otherwise, you couldn't make all the guitars. But, well, that's very nice. I'm honored and thrilled if I helped at all, because I find myself to be so inarticulate, you know, in general, but certainly with you guys. I don't know. I don't even know how you. It's a miracle that you guys make this thing. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. I also think what would be really great for guitar makers is to know history.
Yeah.
This is a rich. I was just raving about this book to Gary. That's my bookmarker, my friend's Christmas card. Raving about this book. Now, I'm just starting it, and it's a must for all guitar makers. Jonathan Eastwood and Richard Wright, oddly enough, called Guitar, but that's because it's from the Yehudi Menuhin School, and they have somebody write about each instrument. But as much as I think players need to read that book, guitar makers need to read everything they can about the luthiers of the past, and there's a lot of info, right?
Oh, it's part of the fun part about.
I mean, you have
the history is really cool.
And if you're like me and it's hard and you read insanely slowly, then talk to somebody that knows a lot to get inspired by talking to them, or you know. But I do think you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? I mean, there's so much great, and see if you can get your hands on, and certainly a lute. I mean, everything. Get deep, ouds. Find out everything that's, you know, a quarterphone. Just do it. That's, you know, history is important. Try to be inspired by what you've done. If not, look, if I write a piece of music, I can always tell you something negative. So this measure is like, just this morning, or a recording. I mean, I can't listen to recordings. It's just terrible. But when years go by, you'll play your guitars. That's the other reason, like, you got to make a lot of guitars, man. So you can go back and say, yeah, that 30th guitar or whatever it was had some merit. It showed I had a direction, you know, or it's beautiful to look back at your work. I mean, if, you know, I really...
It's true. I was talking to a very well-known guitar builder, and he said, you know, we always think that our older guitars are just awful, but then when they come back and I hear them, he said, you know, that was really pretty good.
I know. I said the same thing in my recordings. It's like, oh my God, that's not as bad. And I remember afterwards thinking, I speak French. I could teach French in, maybe a high school level or something, but I'm certainly not going to be a guitarist because this is so terrible.
Oh, wow.
I'd be so upset with the recording. I mean, it's just like you're so close to it, But yeah, I loved that story about the guitar maker. So really think about the strings you put on your guitar makers, and try them. I know you're very particular, and you told us what it was.
Yeah, I'm so happy that this particular guitar, it hasn't always been true, but on this particular guitar, the D'Addario Pro Arte works really the best. I've tried many.
Yeah, but that's not true with your other guitars.
No, it hasn't been.
You've used Hanebach, and other my students really swear by, a sort of a blend sometimes, and Severez this, and I was really my students generally teach me much more than I teach them, and I remember not that long ago, you were like, we got into it, and I said, no man, you don't understand. These strings really sound better in this guitar. So I think guitar makers, if you can, I know they're not cheap. They're not like they're not giving them away, but be open to different strings on your and listen to the guitar players. The other thing I do want to mention about guitar making, it's probably not a bad idea to go to somebody and say, like Gary, or look, all of us guitar players studied with a master. And I took lessons from a man named Seymour Bernstein up until the pandemic, meaning he was a pianist, but he was my mentor, and I would play and he would play it on the piano. And he'd say, this is how it goes. This is how it should go. You're never going to stop learning, and you should have a mentor. You should, and if it's Dahmen, then you should just sleep outside his house and say, hey, and if he says, I won't see you today, there's that great video of Bream trying to get Stravinsky to write for him. So, no, man, there's, you should get as much information from great guitar makers as you can. Nobody does it on their own, or YouTube. You're so lucky to have YouTube. Oh my God. For playing and everything. So that I want to say, and I mention that because a great guitar maker is not going to have, there are certain problems that they're not going to have. For example, if I'm playing and you have that first string, so it slips off, I want to cry. You're having good times. I love life. Life is great. I love music.
The slippies.
Oh!
Yes, you notice how I move your first string way away from the edge of death.
Put it in Alaska. Wherever, yeah. But that's because I'm a certain type of player. You could argue someone else may not have, might play better than me, and they don't, I don't know. But I think there are little things like that that aren't discussed enough. Like, hey, and again, it gets back to the playability thing, Guitar makers should go to conservatories. That's another thing. They should ask the teacher and say, can I sit in on your seminar class or your, whatever the conservatory is. That would be, you've done that.
Yeah.
I think it's did you find it helpful just to sit there?
Oh, always. Because not only did I learn how students are taught or what their life is like within the walls of a university or a conservatory, I see how they interact with each other. I learn the vocabulary is a huge one. And I see how they conduct their lives just carrying a guitar around.
Yeah.
Taking it out of a case, playing for each other. Yeah.
So I would say guitar makers go to conservatories, whether you're in Europe, and see if you can. The teacher would love to have you there. You're just sitting in, and you're just going to be in the back room, and then if you have time and you want to, ask some of the students some questions, great.
What do you mean?
I'll tell you, one of the coolest guys ever.
Okay.
Connors.
Steve Connors.
Steve Connors. I don't even think I met this guy, but he sent me a guitar. He said, I really would like your opinion of my guitar. I was on the phone to Fred Hand, and right there, He came, I guess somebody delivered it, like I remember being delivered to the door. And Fred said, okay, you just play 3 notes and tell me. Now, Steve, I played 3 notes and said, Fred, what? I said, I don't know. I don't think so. And then I played it really hard and I realized it was not the guitar for me. It was a really good guitar. And then since, that was a long time ago.
Yes.
Before Steve, he was probably taken off, but he was, not where he is now. And then since I've played, Antron's guitar and I've played so many great Connors. I would say in my studio at Yale, more Connors than anything, probably. But that was an example of a cool, I loved that he said, I don't care if you don't like this. Yeah. And I think he meant, I just want your opinion of this guitar. And he sent it to me, man. I mean, luckily, I was teaching, it couldn't have worked out better. And I played it in class and everybody was like, whoa, But it just didn't quite resonate. Also, when you're not looking for a guitar, to Steve's defense or anybody, I'm not really that guy that has a lot of guitars. I mean, I'm thrilled with the guitars that I have. But no, I'm not when you're not really looking for guitars, if you're satisfied, you have, that's why it was great for me to have your guitars. It was really different this moment. That was the main reason, besides being a great guitar maker, and we had this great relationship and we watched, we got to work together over all these years. And then became great friends on so many levels but it was really like, look, I'm not looking, I want something different from the Greg Smallman guitar, which you were building, which you were doing. And then we worked from there and there were so many other things you did for me, helping with amplification. And I mean, I should just do an hour show just about you, but you'd have to be, you don't want to be in the same room, about your attributes. But he installed, that was incredible because at the time I really wanted to plug in, right? And now I don't do that anymore. I mean, I use a different system, the DPA, which is another whole thing to talk about. But my point is like, if you're not really looking for a guitar, like I wasn't, Steve sent it to me, but it was the way he did it, and I would recommend every guitar maker to call him about etiquette, like just be cool. Like I realize how hard it is to be a guitar maker. Now look, he's one of the most celebrated guys.
Sure.
I mean, probably can't make enough guitars, but it's just that manner that I just loved. I don't know, is that true for you as a guitar maker? Do you feel inspired by what you've made, or are you still too judgmental of it? If I may interview you, because I got some questions for you, buddy.
I am always inspired. It never gets old when I finish.
Yeah, you said that in the
never gets old. And when I finish one, I always feel like, wow, that is a hard task to finish.
To get to the finish line, yeah.
To put everything in a big package where every detail needs to be all in line, that I can actually hand it to you.
Yeah, that was cool about the GFA portion of your video that you said, like, yeah, you even said that. Oh, the aesthetic.
Oh, yeah.
I don't feel, your guitars are so beautifully made, but maybe that gets to your first question about, is it a tool? It's not a tool, it's an instrument, but if somebody is a little crass with their aesthetics, that's all right with me.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's not all right with some friends of mine, or if that's, I know a lot of people that, and it's so beautiful. I can't get over how clean and beautiful it is. And that means a lot to you, and I think it should, right? I'm not saying, but as a player, that's less important.
I love the players that will get on a guitar, and after playing 15 minutes, they can't tell me what it looks like.
Right.
They can tell me everything about how it feels and sounds.
Right. Oh my God.
But they couldn't tell me anything about the aesthetics, which is great.
Oh,
they can figure it out later.
I mean, we look at the rosette and all that stuff, but come on, it's how it sounds and feels and plays and what it does to your being, that's your soul. I mean, it's such that's the element of guitar making that's so mysterious. It is somebody's soul. It is, you make a guitar. It is the Gary Lee soulful guitar that, it's like, it's not, you can't just erase that, When you sell a guitar to someone, are you thinking they're going to play it for life? What's your attachment level? Did I phrase that well?
Yeah,
because I could
know
turn
exactly
it around.
what you're saying.
Because John Gilbert said this to me.
Oh,
I mean, this concept.
Yeah, nobody's ever asked me that question. No, well, first of all, I'm never attached to a guitar unless I built it for myself.
Right.
Because it's always built for somebody else.
Right.
So when they leave, great. Get it out of the workshop.
Wow.
And I never think that they're going to play it for life. Never. I don't know why. Should I?
No. I'm asking because, like,
even how we think of Taurus guitars as living forever and being played forever, especially with these modern. I won't say that a double top is any more fragile than a traditional top. We've seen that a double top actually wears better to humidity, resistant to cracking. But these are kind of like high performance race cars. I look 10 years, 20 years, and they're already surpassing 20 years now from what I've built. So
Right.
now I don't even have to worry about that. But as a player's instrument, no, I never say that person is going to play it. I hope that person is going to play it forever and is not going to play other guitars or things like that. Sure, it's not easy when somebody picks up a different guitar and plays it. And I talk to many other builders about this kind of thing, even the most sought after builders, and they say it's never easy. But
yeah, I know. It's like I always say, when I changed guitars, it was a little bit like, I've never been divorced, but it was like a son of a divorce. This really harsh. It's a feeling of rejection. That's why I said early on about you gotta have, if you're a guitar player and you're playing in public, you gotta be ready to be criticized. It's part of the gig, as they say. And likewise with guitar makers. And I see, because what I was gonna say was like to guitarists, young guitarists, I'd say try to buy a guitar that in you think it's going to be your guitar for life. Of course it's not going to be, but you're not thinking about value.
Value.
It's not an investment, man.
No.
I don't dig that. I get very incensed when, I buy this and I could sell it. It's like, you know what, man? No, you got to play that thing and you got to get to know it and you got to spend time on it and sweat and make it work for you, or buy another guitar. But don't buy it as like it's an investment. I sound like I'm being very preachy. I'm just saying a guitar maker, I think, wants you to play it and to find truth and to make the universe a better place. And yeah, you might buy another guitar. We get that. But you got to give it its due. So I think that's John Gilbert. You said, like, in so many words, don't buy a guitar because it's a name guitar. And I could just turn around and sell it. Okay. I mean, is there anything wrong with that? No, it's just not. I mean, I'm more like, I want to be into the art of it, because it is an art,
When I see guitars of mine come back and they're all kind of ripped to shreds,
that's good.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like
they've
that.
played it, like you were saying.
I feel bad that if they ever want to sell it, it's going to be very tough. But,
that's true.
But it meant that they were really playing it.
Yeah, and I think and I think it's an ever interesting thing. Like, I have a few guitars, far less than other people that I know, and maybe far more than others. But I generally play those guitars, and I can totally. It's not like electric, electrics, man. A very serious electric player generally and unless the ones I am, and they well, I have to have the Telecaster, and then I have to have the Les Paul for this, and then I have to have Stratocaster for this, and then a hybrid. I mean, generally they're Firebird, or they have guitars for certain sounds, and I think to a degree we have that, but maybe lesser. But I don't know. But everybody's different, and everybody deserves to have as many guitars as they want. As far as I'm concerned. But you aren't. You know what, people, you aren't going to be able to. Well, maybe there was some guy that buried himself with like 30 flutes or some incredible number of flutes. So yeah, if you want to bury yourself with all your guitars, great. But so I think the basic thing what John was saying to me, like it's not a brand. Don't buy it because it's a brand. He was telling me about coaching younger people. There was something. Do you learn from recordings of your guitars, or do you find that just too difficult because there's so many? You don't know the mic placement. You don't know the mics. I mean, how much do you learn from YouTube?
Okay. Yeah, I was going to comment about this. So first, live performance is the litmus test.
Right.
So the first thing that I always do, whether it's one of my guitars or somebody else's, is I'm very analytical. I'm trying to first see the interaction, the physical interaction, and then I'm listening to the sound production. And I can't help it, but in the first 5 minutes of any concert, I'm trying to deconstruct why that guitar sounds the way it does, maybe the way it was built, its structure, and then the interaction that the player is having to make the sound from that guitar.
Wow.
Then I can chill out and enjoy.
Are you ever stymied? Have you ever just, can't figure it out? Figure something out?
Oh, well, there's so much mystery in how what makes one guitar sound from another, and I've not experimented with enough design parameters to know exactly. So that part is kind of a little bit of a puzzle, and a fun puzzle for me to try to kind of reconstruct in my mind what's going on in that guitar. Then as far as recordings, yes, I know that there are limitations in microphones and placement, but it's always going to be the player is going to be the number one influence on the sound that you're getting, and then the guitar. After you listen to enough recordings and stuff, you can kind of filter out and weight how much influence all these extraneous things have, and then you can make a more informed evaluation of what you're hearing. That's kind of the process that I use. So I can be okay with a lot of different recording setups and still understand basically the voice of that guitar and the style of that player. So as far as YouTube, I am a nutty. Whenever a thumbnail comes up on somebody playing a guitar, especially a different guitar or a different player playing the same guitar or a different guitar, I have to hit it and listen. And each time I'm sampling and getting data points in my head that I'm judging whether I like it, whether I don't like it, or trying to figure out why that guitar is sounding that way. It's just...
So it's different with YouTube. I mean, with the actual film of the player.
It's different in the sense that you have so many different environments, so many different players, and so many different guitars. So those interactions are just so complex, but still I can distill. Has
it actually helped your building?
Yes.
YouTube?
Yes.
I mean, the viewing of people's playing?
You bet.
Wow.
Because
go ahead.
If you've listened to guitars by different makers, you start to hear the similarities of each of those constructions, and that's how you can hear the signature sound of many different of a particular maker across many different players or recording setups.
Great.
And then whether it's good or bad, it's important to develop an opinion of whether you would like to build that sound into your guitars.
Right.
And that's how you have develop a target and then kind of a sound goal to try to make in your own guitars. So
wow,
I think
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, so you don't have to go to live concerts anymore to still build up this database in your head. And
wow.
having listened to a lot of concerts and a lot of players on different guitars, I have a very good musical memory of that combination of player and guitar, or you on different vintage guitars that I've built. I've stored that, and I can recall that very, very clearly. I don't know if it's something that I've always had or you actually train yourself to do that. I think it's a lot of training, if you're perceptive to it.
Right. Wow, that's fascinating.